Of this mess, we got to get rid of the IRS. Hey, hey!
Hello and welcome again to FAIRtax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malero.
And we are the FAIRtax Guys, coming to you from Big Daddy Studios in Gainesville, Florida. The video portion of today's program is pre-recorded, but the comments are still live. If you'd like to comment on the video as it streams, we will be there. Of course, I'm going to be up in Folkestone chasing trains here about the time this is going on. So you and Randy may have to hold down the fort to get on this one. Well, if I can get a Wi-Fi signal up there, sometimes it's pretty iffy. I'll try to join you if I can.
Okay.
But we'll be
Appreciate
doing that.
that.
You're welcome. But we'd like to invite everyone to send us questions and comments at our email address, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com. We'd like you to go to our new website. No "the" here, just fairtaxguys.com.
Yep.
And you can see the archived versions of all of the video, not all of the video shows we've made, because some of the older ones are just the audio-only podcasts that we got off of Spreaker. But fairtaxguys.com, our new website, we are happy to see that. Of course,
And remember that with that new website, fairtaxguys.com, you don't have to join or subscribe, all right? So there are some people that don't care for social media. Well, anybody can go to fairtaxguys.com.
Yep, don't need an account. Just go there and check it all out.
Yep.
And enjoy that. So again, our FAIRtax Guys Facebook page is still alive. We would like to hear from you about that way as well. And so, I don't know, we just got lots of ways to talk about the fair tax here on FAIRtax Power Radio.
Yes, we have all these electronic leashes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. We have got a subject today that we're going to get into. It's something that I saw on Fox Business the other day. And I was actually considering where it was from. I was astounded by the prejudice, if I can use that word, and just the tone of this article. It said, Amazon, one of the biggest companies in the country. Amazon is not the only company that paid zero in federal taxes last year. Just the first sentence. Now, I'll give credit to the author, Megan Henney, who I don't really know, but the first sentence of this article says, under President Trump's new tax law, 60 of America's biggest corporations paid zero in taxes in 2018, despite earning billions of dollars in profit. Now, just can't you hear what's the word I'm looking for here? The disgust in her voice. Yeah. How dare these big companies not pay anything?
That's right.
You know, and that's...
But why? Why did they not pay anything?
Well, they did not pay anything because the tax code did not require them to. There are enough legal loopholes and things that they could use, benefits and deductions that they could use. So it took them an army of tax attorneys and lawyers to get to that figure. So don't think they paid nothing. They paid a lot. They just didn't pay it to Uncle Sam. They paid it to their tax attorneys and their lawyers. Mm-hmm. And those costs were rolled into the prices of the products and services that these companies get. But she named off, they said there were 60 of them. They only listed a few here by name. Amazon, Netflix, General Motors, Chevron, JetBlue, IBM, and U.S. Steel. Those were the biggies among the companies that avoided taxes last year using a diverse array of loopholes and tax breaks.
Yeah, which are put there by Congress.
According to a new report from the Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy, a nonpartisan think tank. Loopholes. You go back to Senator Long's quote.
That's right.
A tax loophole is something that benefits the other guy. When it benefits me, it's tax reform.
That's right. You know, we got to get this straight here. So
yeah. You could tell that this person is not happy that all these big corporations made billions in dollars and paid zero in federal tax.
And they will insist that the corporations have to pay their fair share, right? Everything would be great in this country if the corporations paid their fair share.
Yeah, hang on, before you pop that pie chart, Art, I know what's coming. Another paragraph out of this thing talking about the Tax Cuts and Job Acts dropping the corporate tax rate to 21% from 35%. The result, unsurprisingly, has been a continued decline in our already low corporate tax revenues. In fiscal 2018, U.S. corporate tax revenues fell by 31%, according to U.S. Treasury data. Study says this was a more precipitous decline than in any year of economic growth in U.S. history. So they're trying to make it sound like the federal treasury is losing just tons and tons and tons of money by the corporate. And how much of the overall corporate income tax bill do you think these corporations pay? Gabe, hit it. There it is.
9%. Okay.
That's for 2017, but I'm sure that that's fairly stable across all the years.
Yeah.
The individual income tax, the biggest chunk, 48% there. Look at that. Payroll taxes, the Medicare and Social Security stuff.
If they want to be upset about something, they should be upset about the payroll tax. That is the most regressive tax in terms of how it hits the poor.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's no loopholes to escape that. They don't have a choice when it comes to the payroll tax. It gets taken out of their paychecks. Meanwhile, they're concentrating on the corporations, which pay a total of 9% of the total tax bill.
Yeah. In total, the 60 companies, still quoting from this article, the 60 companies paid no federal income tax on $79 billion in U.S. pre-tax income, according to the study. And instead of paying $16.4 billion in taxes, as these folks think they probably should have, at the 21% rate, these companies received a corporate tax rebate of 4.3. So their tax rate was negative. They didn't pay anything. They got money back. And this wasn't over and above what their withholding was. Their tax bill was zero, and they still got money back.
Yeah, yeah. So, and I saw one article here because I also did a search yesterday. I asked the computer, look for articles on corporations don't pay taxes. Well, it came up with pages of this stuff. All right. Look at this. All kinds of articles. Some of these are, you can tell that they're, like Bob said, they're not happy that these corporations are not paying taxes. What they're not saying is that they're legally not paying taxes. And one of the articles in here said, well, okay, under the reduced corporate tax rate from 35 to 21, they should have paid a total of 16 point something billion in taxes.
Yeah,
billion,
just read that.
okay? And instead, they ended up getting 4.3 billion back for a total exchange, you might say, of 20.7 billion. Well, let's do a little bit of math here. What does the federal government spend each year? Does anybody know this? What does the federal government spend each year? It's just over $4 trillion. $4 trillion. And this little snafu with the corporations, that they reduce their tax rate, by 20.7. That amounts, I did the math, that amounts to 0.00005% of the total expenditures of the federal government. So they're ballyhooing this. I mean, if you really want to look at the tax reform, you need to look at how it hits the individuals, both in the income tax and the payroll tax. That's where the bulk of the money for the government comes from. So that's where your concern should be. But they concentrate on the small little tiny niche of 9% of the federal tax earnings.
And what they fail to tell you is that individuals end up paying these corporate taxes.
Yeah.
We have hit on this on FAIRtax Power Radio before. Corporations do not pay taxes.
And I think there's a lot of people in the media just don't understand that concept.
They don't understand that.
They will not accept that.
They can understand the concept that if you buy a car, the price of the steel, the rubber, the glass, the plastic, all of the pieces and parts that go into that car are included in the price of that car. So the Ford or General Motors, Chrysler, Honda, whoever makes that car, has to write a check to their suppliers to get that stuff. But it is the ultimate consumer that ends up paying for it because the costs of those items are included in the price of the car that you buy. And that's true not just for cars, that's for any product and any service that you buy. The cost of labor and materials is a good chunk of what goes into the retail prices of the products and services that you do buy. People never seem to understand that when you put a corporate tax liability on any business, be it, mom and pop's corner grocery store up to ExxonMobil or GM or IBM or any of these corporations that didn't pay any income tax, when you put that kind of liability on them, those costs get rolled into the prices of the products and the services that those companies provide. And the consumer who consumes that product or service, the end consumer, is the one who pays that tax because the company recovers that money back from their customers.
Yeah.
They have to write the check to Uncle Sam, but the consumer ends up paying the tax the same way that the consumer pays for the steel and the rubber and glass when they buy a car. It's insane that people are just going, ape nuts over the fact these corporations didn't pay anything. Well, that just means they didn't write a check to Uncle Sam.
So what has happened as a result of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017? Yes, corporate revenues are down. And that's a good thing, Bob, because when we go, strictly, selfish, when we go to the fair tax, of course, the fair tax is a tax on consumption at the retail level. There will be no corporate tax under the fair tax. And right now, we're down to a point where the corporate tax is a very small portion of what is collected by Uncle Sam. So it's going to be an easier transition. The lower the rate on the corporate tax is, the easier it's going to be to get the fair tax. But as a result, what's happened to the economy? The economy is booming, all right? Mm-hmm. It's easier for businesses to do business, and when they do that, they create jobs. The part of the Tax Act was to reduce the repatriation tax. All this money that's sitting offshore by American companies from their sales offshore, some of that's starting to come back, and it goes into building businesses and so forth, expanding what they're doing now. Some of the big companies made big announcements about this. So the government is collecting more tax revenues because more people are working and therefore paying more taxes. But some of these folks are fixated on this small little portion of corporate taxes, which is, I'd like to see a pie chart for 2019 and see what it is, because I'll bet you it's less than 9%.
But I'll tell you what, even though the corporate tax revenue is a small portion of the overall money that the federal government collects, that is still, you can ask your friend Bob Matthews about this, it is still enough to put American businesses, American corporations at a significant disadvantage when they are trying to compete in the global marketplace. Because the prices of everything that is up on that global marketplace for export, the prices of all U.S.-made goods include the costs of the income tax. And we've hit on this time and time again. It is not just the cost of the tax liability. How much do you think it cost Netflix or JetBlue or Chevron or General Motors to come to that zero figure? How much did they have to pay their tax attorneys? How much did they have to pay their lawyers?
Wow.
How much did they have to pay their accountants? There are huge, and I mean huge, compliance costs over and above the tax liability that American business, from mom and pop shops up to General Motors, have to pay. And those costs are rolled into the prices of their products and services, just like everything else. So even though the overall contribution of corporate income taxes to the big pie, they are just 9%. When you have the fact that all of those costs are included in the price, can't help but be included in the price of U.S. goods on the world economy. I mean, the Europeans and the Asians and all, they have this VAT tax, and when they put something up for export, the government gives them back that. Okay? So the foreign goods are cheaper on the world market than the U.S. goods, and we are at a significant disadvantage on that, and the fair tax gets rid of that.
Yep, because that disadvantage cost us jobs. How many companies, now things are better now, with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, but as we've said before, that's not tax reform, that's tax relief. All right, we need real reform and get our companies back to an even keel as far as competing with foreign companies, because we keep losing jobs. I mean, there are, in the past, there have been companies that have move their headquarters overseas because there was a tax advantage, a big tax advantage. Now with the some tax relief that we got, we can see that trend is reversing. Well, we need to continue this. We need to continue so that we have strictly a consumption tax at the retail level and get rid of all this nonsense of personal income tax, payroll tax, and corporate tax, which means, by the way, it gets rid of the IRS, which I don't think anybody's going to cry over, all right? And go with the fair tax. The fair tax is the only way to do this. And, the way you can help is just spread the message. Let as many people as possible know about the fair tax. You can send them to our Facebook page. You can send them to our website, FAIRtaxGuys.com. You can go to the main FairTax page, fairtax.org. Lots of good information there. Each state has their own version of the fair tax. Like here in Florida, it's fairtax.org. There's all kinds of ways for you to share information with others. You've got to let people know that there is an alternative to this crazy income tax, and we can get rid of the IRS.
I thought it was interesting, this search you did for companies that paid no taxes.
Yeah.
You get one big hit that says 27 giant profitable companies paid no taxes. That's USA Today. Meet 18 profitable companies that paid no taxes. 9 popular companies that paid 0 taxes. And of course, the thing from Fox Business, 60 companies legally paid no taxes. You cannot get a handle on how many companies actually did not pay any taxes.
Yeah, and some of these, like the first one here, 2016. This is an article that was dated in March of 2016. Oh, I think that was before the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and they were paying no taxes then because they're doing it legally. Because they have all these tax attorneys and CPAs, as we've talked about.
Because they've got all these lobbyists in Congress that are buying those loopholes that they can do that with.
Yeah.
Drives you.
There's one on the back page that says, you paid taxes, these corporations didn't. And when you go in there, that's when they talk about, their animus towards this whole idea of these corporations not paying taxes.
Well, Wizakowski hit on that theme in one of his little videos that we looked at a couple of weeks ago. Your boss is going to pay this so you don't have to.
Yeah.
So they try to
just kind of slip that in.
They try to sell you the idea that corporate taxes relieves individuals of having to pay something. If these corporations are paying their taxes, then your taxes as an individual are lower. And that may be true to some degree, but the prices you pay for the goods and services you consume from these companies that are getting taxed, it still comes out of your pocket. It might not go out of your pocket directly to Uncle Sam, but it still comes out of your pocket. Corporate taxes are paid by individuals, the customers that buy the products and services, the employees that are getting lower benefits and wage packages because the company cannot afford to do that. And if it's a publicly held company, stockholders getting less in dividends because every dollar that the company has to send up to Uncle Sam is a dollar they don't have to hire somebody, is a dollar they don't have to give in dividends, is a dollar that they don't have, to provide benefits and stuff. And so those individuals, largely the customers, but also the shareholders and the employees, those individuals are paying those corporate taxes. So instead of, horrors, companies aren't paying any taxes, people should be thinking, wait a minute, corporations should not be paying any taxes. Let's make it easier for them to do it. Let's fix it so they don't have to deal with this incredibly complex tax code and spend a lot of money on compliance costs, accountants and lawyers and whatnot. Let the cost of doing business go down because we relieve them of all of this garbage that is we ultimately pay for to begin with. And you talk about making the U.S. economy take off like on rocket fuel, that'll do it.
Yeah, that's right. And the summary of all this is that people always end up paying the taxes, no matter how you couch the subject, how you frame it, all right? It is always people that end up paying the taxes. So let's have a tax system in which that's true right from the beginning.
Yeah.
That people at the retail level pay the taxes.
I wish the people that are writing these articles understood that.
Yeah, they really don't seem to.
People who apparently make their living writing about business are just up in arms that under President Trump's tax turn, 60 corporations didn't pay anything despite earning billions of dollars, and you could hear the unsaid words, "That's not fair."
Well, that's what Congress, and here's another thing, all right, these laws, these tax laws are there because they were passed by Congress and signed by some president, usually slipped in there to another, part of another bill, okay? So the almost one change per day in the tax code is there not because you will be, not because the corporations are doing it, it's because Congress is doing it. And yet, you'll have people who are in Congress and have been in Congress a long time, and they rail against these companies not paying their fair share. Well, whose fault is that, Mr. Congressman, Mr. Senator? All right? You're the one that's been in Congress for 30 years. You're the one that's voted in favor of these changes. You're the one that has along with your colleagues, has created this awful income tax mess in the IRS and so forth. So if you want to blame somebody, look in the mirror.
All right. I tell you what, I'm getting down here to the bottom of this Fox Business article. There is very little that I agree with Bernie Sanders on. But Bernie Sanders said, "I happen to believe that we have an absurd tax system."
Yeah, we agree on that.
He's right about that. Of course, he thinks it's absurd for an entirely different reason than we do.
Yeah,
But I will buy that. I happen to believe that we have an absurd tax system.
It absolutely is.
Absolutely, we do.
Yeah, we probably think that for different reasons, but we do agree on that point. Yeah, it is absurd.
Of course, he thinks it's absurd that companies get away with not paying their fair share.
Yeah,
because they think that shifts the tax burden to individuals. Well, individuals pay all the taxes anyway. Just figure that out, folks.
Always and every time, it is people who end up paying the taxes. Okay, always and forever. Okay.
Yeah.
So you might as well just go to a system that does that automatically.
It says tax law is likely to be front and center during the 2020 presidential election. Well, I would hope. We talked about this last week, that the president's tax returns. I would hope that the garbage that they're putting him through now, trying to get his personal information and his tax returns, his business information, and use it against him politically, I would hope that would be enough to push the president to get behind the fair tax and say, all right, that's it. No more tax return. We can fund the government without tax returns, individual or corporate. And that's what the fair tax does.
And Congress is playing with fire here, because let's say that for some reason the Supreme Court goes along with this and says, oh yeah, Congress has the authority to ask for your tax returns and everybody else, okay? Then during the campaign, which will be coming up, probably in a year,
it's
the
already
president.
Started.
Yeah, all right. Then he's going to be able to say, okay, if you don't like a portion of my tax return, everything in there is legal, all right? We're trying to accommodate the IRS. We're trying to cooperate with the IRS and do everything is 100% legal. If you don't like something that I took a loophole that's legally in there, well, then you've been in Congress all this time. Why haven't you done something about it?
Well,
he did that during the last presidential debate with Mrs. Clinton, all right? Yeah, she brought up something that she meant to be embarrassing about him and his tax returns, and he turned around and said, well, you've been in Congress all these years. What have you done about it?
I pay as little as I can, and I use the laws that you wrote to do it.
Yeah, yeah. And the look on her face when he said that was like, boy, I walked into that one. And Congress is doing the same thing. He can turn this right around on them. So, all this wrangling, all this waste of time and expense is totally unnecessary, because, if we get smart and go to the fair tax, this will be a thing of the past. They'll talk about, you remember back in the old days when they used to argue about the income tax? Boy, that was sure foolish, Yeah, because now we got the fair tax and nobody's arguing about it because there's nothing to argue about.
Nothing to argue about, no tax returns to fill out. American companies are at a huge advantage in the global market because, and I tell you what, it has been asked before. We've mentioned this before, that people have been asked. The movers and shakers of major international corporations have been asked, flat out, what would your response be if the corporate income tax rate in the United States was 0? And they said, we'd be here tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
bring
Yeah.
our plants, bring our jobs, bring our distribution centers, bring everything here. So if you want jobs, you want the fair tax.
Yep. And you know, when there's a lot of people working and companies are still looking for more employees and they're having trouble finding them, what happens to wages? They go up. That's right, because they have to compete for employees, and they compete with salary and benefits. That's how they do it. And wages have been increasing, you know, because of this. Well, if that's happened because the corporate tax rate was cut from 35 to 21, what happens when it goes to 0? Watch out. I mean, there's going to be such a flourishing of businesses, and the need for employees, wages will go up. People will be doing better, and there'll be lots of people working. We're going to need legal immigrants at that point to take these jobs.
Keyword legal.
Yes, legal, like my parents did 100 years ago, okay? Legal. The economy is going to explode. Wages will increase. People will be working everywhere. You have to, as one fellow said, you have to chain yourself to your bed to keep from getting a job.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's what's going to happen under the fair tax, and we need you to help us get the word out about this.
Yeah, and people, these folks that are bemoaning the fact that these corporations paid 0 should be celebrating it. They really should.
Yeah,
because,
that's right.
that's the way it ought to be. Corporations just pass their tax liability on anyway, so let's just free them from the hassle of having to mess with the tax code at all. Let the cost of doing business in America go down dramatically. Jobs, jobs, jobs will spring out of the woodwork.
So, you know, it appears when you look at all these articles here and you see who wrote the articles, we've made this point before, they really don't understand how this works. They really don't. They've got this view about corporations have to pay their fair share when they're only, and we got to get a figure on what is the current corporate share of the total income, total tax bill. Because in, what was that?
It was 2017, I think.
2017, so now here we are in 2019, and I'll bet you it's less than 9%. So they're making a lot of ballyhoo about a very small portion of the tax revenues, you know. So they can do better. So we're going to have to educate these people.
That's what the Florida Fair Tax Educational Association is all about, and
That's
the
right.
other educational associations dedicated to the fair tax in other states is all about.
Yeah.
That's what Americans for Fair Taxation is all about. And if you'd like to help with the fight, go to fairtax.org.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't do that.
AFFT is Americans for Fair Taxation, but their website is fairtax.org.
Fairtax.org and big solution. Fairtax.org to get educated, bigsolution.org to volunteer and join the fight.
Yep. And if you know of a multimillionaire who's willing to help us fund some advertising, national advertising, send them along.
And FairTax Logo Store to get one of these.
Oh, yeah, that's good. All right. FairtaxLogoStore.org, FairtaxLogoStore.org. All right. You get palm cards, buy some of these palm cards. These are handy. They have basic information about the fair tax on one side and the prebate on the other side. You can slip them in your shirt pocket, which I would do if I had a shirt pocket. Okay. Pens.
Watch this.
Pins. Yeah, there you go. Yep. Okay. All kinds of stuff. And I like this one. This is a fairly new item.
Oh, yeah.
All right. All kinds of stuff. Shirts, hats, jackets, umbrellas, tote bags, you know, whatever, lunch buckets, mugs, travel mugs, all kinds of things in there. Show your support for the fair tax. Let other people see your support for the fair tax by, you know, using a bag like this or putting a pin on the strap of your purse or something. You know, my wife, we've gotten some great volunteers because of these.
I want to see you put that on your purse.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to wait for that one.
Mercy.
Anyways, but yeah, we're in good shape here. All right, so please do this. Please help spread the word. And again, we're on the internet in all kinds of places. We're on Facebook. All right, Facebook. FairTax Guys have a Facebook page. The national organization, FairTax Official Facebook page. That's where this video is showing. But this video will also be on our website, fairtax.com.
FairtaxGuys.com.
Yep. Yes, fairtaxguys.com. I'm sorry. FAIRtaxGuys.com, FAIRtaxGuys.com, where you don't have to join or subscribe. You just go there, okay? It's not live, but it will be there a few hours after this show airs on Facebook.
And our email, thefairtaxguys@gmail.com. If you've got a question or comment, if you just want to rant about something, we'll read it and hit the delete button. But if you want to ask a thoughtful question, if you don't understand something, if you've got a real criticism of the fair tax, we'd like to hear that as well. Of course, again, most people that are criticizing the fair tax aren't criticizing the fair tax. They're criticizing their image of what they think the fair tax is.
Yeah.
And we can explain what that's all about. But we do love to have your feedback at thefairtaxguys@gmail.com. Our Facebook page, leave us a comment as well. And that's just about going to wrap up this edition of Fair Tax Power Radio. Time flies when you're having fun, right?
Yep.
Thank you so much for watching and listening. I'm Bob Paxton.
And I'm Ron Malaro.
The Fair Tax Guys reminding you that the fair tax is America's big solution. And once you understand it,
You'll demand it.
Oh, these income tax forms are way too complicated. There's got to be a better way. Who are you?
we're It's the fair tax. Completely eliminates the federal income tax system as we know it. No more withholding, no more payroll taxes, no more tax returns ever, no more IRS. All gone. And I guarantee you, once you understand it,
You'll demand it.
Yeah.
This mess. We got to get rid of the IRS. Hey, hey. FAIRtax is coming to clean up this mess. We got to get rid of the IRS. Hey, hey.
hello and welcome again to Fair Tax Power Radio. I'm Bob Paxton.